Welcome to the Expat Reality Podcast, where we explore the reality of life as an expat in Australia and what it really means to feel like you belong.
Join us as we uncover the challenges and opportunities that expat life presents on the search for settled.
Our practical tips, personal stories, and in-depth interviews are here to help you navigate expat life abroad. Welcome back to Expat Reality Podcast. I'm your host, Annie.
And I'm your host, Steve.
And in today's episode, we are in the town of Geraldton, NWA.
We are coming live from the van. This is like a first thing for us. We're coming down linking from the van. We're in here today. And who are we with, Annie?
We're with Nina Kipp, who's joining us. And you've been living in Geraldton for the last 4 months or so, right?
Yep, since the end of January.
Wow. Okay. So we only arrived here this afternoon. We did a quick flyby from the town, didn't we, Steve? And we've just landed straight in our caravan park opposite the ocean. We haven't really seen that much yet. Do you want to give us a rundown in terms of what is Geraldton like? Where is it? What would you find here?
Yeah, so Geraldton is kind of the biggest town in the Midwest. I believe there's about 40,000 residents here.
Right.
And it's a regional town, so it serves all of the smaller towns and villages around it. So we're quite lucky. We've got lots of big supermarkets. We've got a Bunnings. We've got lots of shops and restaurants, things like that. I believe it's here originally because there were quite a few mines around. There's a big port that still operates here, and lots of people work in the fishing industry. So crayfish is the local catch. And
Is it tasty?
Yeah, I believe so. I'm a vegan, but I believe so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can have the vegan crayfish version, right? So.
Yeah. Maybe.
It's like the cray vegan. Anyway, moving along.
Totally going off on that. So, Nina, do you want to take us back to the beginning and just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you've ended up in Geraldton?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a teacher from the UK, qualified as a teacher about 14 years ago, had worked in secondary schools in the southeast for all of those 14 years. And probably about a year ago, I started to see things come up on my social media about potential jobs in Australia. Originally looked at jobs on the East Coast for New South Wales and started to go through the process of applying to be a teacher with them. Got part of the way through the process and unfortunately it stalled because of local things that were going on there. And then actually can't remember how I saw teaching jobs in WA advertised. I'm assuming it was on social media somewhere else, and thought, yeah, why not? Why not give that a go? Because I hadn't even considered Western Australia, but always up for something different. So I guess about a year ago, the whole process started, really.
Yeah. And so what sort of attracted you to Australia in the first place? Like, is it from, growing up watching Neighbours,
Home Away, Bondi Rescue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all of that. And actually, I'd wanted to come for ages, and I thought, actually, all the travelling I want to do around Australia and the surrounding kind of countries and area, I'd be better off based here so that I can see a little bit more of it. So, I really want to go over to New Zealand, want to go to some islands in the South Pacific. My husband and I are really into scuba, so there's loads for us that's within spitting distance.
Have you been to Navy Pier?
Now it's closed for diving at the minute.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. So we went up, we did go up to Exmouth for Easter and we dived Ningaloo Reef, but the Navy Pier was shut for diving indefinitely, actually.
Is it really?
Yeah, because it's on an American naval base. And because that base is currently on an alert for various things that are going on around the world, they've shut it for the time being.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you didn't know what Steve's talking about there, and Nina's talking about in terms of Navy Pier, that is apparently one of the top 10, top 10 dive sites. Yeah, but like off the shore, like...
Yeah, shore dive, yeah.
Shore dive, that's it.
Yeah.
How did you get that dive license, Annie? I recall someone helping you through the open water at some point.
Should we say this? when I lived in Koh Tao in Thailand, and I did my dive course, the open water one, and then the guy didn't really teach me very much, and so I just got a friend of mine just to fill out the written part.
Yeah, the theory exam.
Yeah, that's right. and they pass me. So every time I go diving with Steve, I'm like, Steve, just put everything on me. I don't know what I'm doing.
It's kind of strap it to me, and I'm like, don't go anywhere.
They're like, oh, do you want to put stuff on? I'm like, yep. So, do you want to do it? But I'm fine. I kind of know what I'm doing. I'm not that bad. So in terms of Geraldton, I'm trying to get my head around what made you come here? Because this is not your typical sort of expat town, I can imagine.
No.
Like we are very much, about 4.5 hours north of Perth right now.
Yeah.
That's not like on the East Coast where, 4.5 hours north of Sydney, you're going to be just below Coffs Harbour. So, there's a lot of towns going up to Coffs Harbour, isn't there? Whereas here, we drove today for like 3 hours and didn't see very much at all. So can you tell us a little bit about what made you come here?
Yeah, so Geraldton is a regional town. It is pretty remote. As you say, it's like 4.5 hours from Perth minimum, maybe a little bit more. And there aren't that many towns going north either. You're going to see as you carry on your journey, there's they're few and far between. But I think it's the access to other places. Geraldton itself is a really nice place to be based. It's got lots of nice beaches. And it's, as I say, it's like the biggest regional centre in WA that's north of Perth. So if you're going to explore north of Geraldton, Geraldton's a really good place to be based. It was just an opportunity came up at one of the schools. We had a look. When you're applying for teaching roles in WA as somebody from the UK, they talk you through the different areas of WA, and actually the Midwest, which is the area that Geraldton falls into, was the one that was most attractive to us because we've got a Mediterranean climate here, so it's nice weather all year round, warm water, but it's not tropical, so it's not super humid all the time.
Yeah.
And we don't have tropical jellyfish, for instance, so you can swim in your normal swimming costume all year round. And so for somebody who's really into the water, that's important to me. Yeah. I do a lot of open water swimming as well as diving. So.
Oh, wow. And how's the diving been here? Have you found any amazing spots or anything?
So there isn't too much scuba around Geraldton because the water's really shallow here. So it's mainly snorkeling and people go free diving and spearfishing, that kind of stuff for craze. But as you go north, so as you go up to Shark Bay and then up to Exmouth, there is diving and it's awesome. We went out on a boat at Easter from Shark Bay and they took us out to a place called Steep Point, which is the most westerly point of Australia. And we were lucky, we had really calm weather conditions and we were able to get onto that dive site, which they can't do many times a year. And we saw wobbegong sharks, we saw white reef sharks, we saw a huge manta ray. The marine life was incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So with you kind of organising your move over here, can you just talk a bit about how you actually organised it? So did you use an agency to help you get the teaching job that you've got?
No, I didn't need to because the Western Australian government are actually really pushing to employ qualified teachers from the UK and from other overseas countries where the curriculum is really similar, all the same. So they actually really organise everything for you. So the Australian national curriculum and the UK national curriculum are almost identical, certainly for the subjects that I teach. So that transition's been pretty easy. But in terms of actually physically moving over here, there's lots of kind of help and incentive to do that. So if they organise flights for us and paid for it. If we wanted to move all of our things over, they organised and paid for that. We didn't choose to do that. We actually moved just with our suitcases that we took on the plane, but lots of people packed a container and brought that with them as well. There was quite a lot of us starting at the same time this January.
Oh, wow.
There was about 100 overseas teachers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What,
yeah.
Geraldton?
Not in Geraldton, in the whole of WA, but we all had an induction together in Perth first. So they don't just send
that's for
you...
the whole state then?
Yeah, for the whole state. Yeah, so you all have a week together in Perth, before they fly you out to your final destinations.
Have you got anybody else from your group that's here?
Yeah, so there's 4 of us that have started at the school that I'm at.
Oh, wow.
And there was another teacher that's at another local school here. So there's 5 of us that came to Geraldton. and everybody else, the other 95, are at various other schools through the state.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is everyone teaching like similar things? Like, is it all like primary school, high school, like different subjects?
So it's mainly high school,
Mhm.
but a complete variety of subjects. So I teach science and marine and maritime, but with me at my school, one of the teachers is teaching design and technology, one's teaching music, one's teaching maths. We had an English teacher who was part of our group that's teaching at another local high school. So it's a total mixture.
Oh.
Yeah.
And are you guys all like, do you have a bit of a bond now? Or are you all doing your own separate thing? Or?
A bit of both, really. So we see each other about at school. We've got like a shared WhatsApp group. We meet up from time to time. Obviously, we see each other at school. Some of us socialise sometimes, but everybody's kind of also getting on with their own thing and integrating into the community depending on what they're enjoying. So for instance, I've joined a local open water swimming group. One of my friends, she's joining the local music band. You know, so we're all, depending on our interests, we're all throwing ourselves into different things in the community. But
Wow.
yeah, Geraldton's a great place for that because it's big enough that there's lots of different things going on. So whatever your interest is, there's probably somebody else doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so before you came out here, you were living in Devon, right?
Yeah.
So how is your life? Like, how different is it now living from Devon to Geraldton?
Very different, but also there are some similarities because I've kind of carried my hobbies with me. So I was sea swimming all through the year in Devon, but I was doing it in a wetsuit.
Yeah.
there. Whereas here I'm in a swimming costume, but I'm still sea swimming every week.
So let's just clear up the sea swimming thing. So when we're sea swimming, how far are we talking here? Like, are you kilometres at a time, or
Couple of Ks, on Saturday morning, a whole group of us meet in front of the lifeguard hut and we swim up to the boat ramp and back.
Okay, hang on a minute. Hang on. Because I saw it yesterday, I think, on Instagram. And they said there's been 60% more sightings of sharks in WA at the moment. Are you not slightly worried about sharks or anything in the water?
No.
And why?
I might be if I was down in Perth, but not here.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And more in Perth, do you reckon?
Definitely, because the water's colder. Our water's much warmer here. So you won't get, you're unlikely to get great whites up here. Never say never, but
Gosh, I haven't been in the water yet. WA.
That's the thing, is I think a lot of I would say like it's a UK thing to be kind of worried about Australian creatures that are going to be dangerous to you. So I find that kind of, it's refreshing to hear you talk about, there's no sharks up here. That's very Australian, because we would say, no sharks up here.
Well, the flip side is that I deliberately try and go scuba diving with sharks.
Yeah, that's the other part.
Yeah.
But as you say, like there are sharks everywhere, but the nasty variety are further down
The
south.
ones that are going to eat you, I think, are a bit further south from here.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good thing to know now as we go further north.
So come to Geraldton, go sea swimming, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. So do you want to explain a bit about, so you moved over with your husband, John, right?
Yeah.
So how did John feel about moving over? Was he really on board? Or was it something you were like, this is what I want to do and we're doing it?
No, he was really on board. He's up for anything. He had worked in different countries previously before we were married. And so for him, living overseas, working overseas isn't something new, whereas I had never done it before. And it was an ambition of mine to live and work in another country. So this is filling a bit of an ambition for me, but he was very easygoing about it. Yeah.
And what's he doing for work? What's his sort of...
He hasn't been doing anything at the moment, but his plan is to do a little bit of consulting work for his old employer. So because he's in IT, he can do that remotely.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. So that's his plan, but kind of dipping in and out, whereas I'm working full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what made you, just want to move over a few suitcases and not everything? Is it because you had it in your mind that, you're only here for a certain amount of time, or?
A little bit. So I'm here on a 4-year visa and my contract at my school is for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it is renewable at the end of that period of time, but that's the maximum amount of time they can give you on the visa class that we're on. I think it's a skill shortage visa. So, so kind of bearing that in mind, our plan is we're here for 4 years, make the most of it. Obviously, being a teacher, we get a really nice length of holidays that we can take.
Yes.
So we can do lots of travelling while we're here. And then we'll just weigh it up at the end of the 4 years. I mean, so far, we're absolutely loving it. Like my work-life balance is the best it's ever been here. And we've already like really made the most of the holiday that I've had, the Easter holiday. We went up, as I said, to Exmouth and Shark Bay. We're planning to go a little bit further north for the next school holiday. So we're just going to take it as it comes at the minute, just planning to do the 4 years, and then we'll see how we go at the end of the 4 years. But the furniture, our furniture, we just threw some of it away because it was so old and knackered, or we stored a bit of it, or we gave some of it away, some of the decent stuff. So
I've got a burning question though, like with the students, okay, are they very different in the UK to what they are in Australia? Like, and how is the curriculum various? I think you mentioned the curriculum was fairly similar. Like
the curriculum's fairly similar, and teenagers the world over, as far as I can tell, are also pretty similar.
Oh, yeah.
No
Do you want to elaborate a bit on that? I feel like there's a few undercurrents underneath that. Do you want to,
Is that because you're in Devon, do you think?
I wouldn't do my job unless I loved working with young
right,
people.
okay.
So yeah, there are some like subtle differences, because Australian children have grown up in Australia. They've got this great outdoor lifestyle. Like they'll be talking about before we even get to school, they'll have been out fishing, or they'll have been out surfing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas in the UK, perhaps it's more of a kind of after school kind of social scene, isn't it? So there are some subtle differences. But in terms of like what children are like to teach, like school to school, country to country, from what I can tell, it's all very similar.
Oh, really? Okay. All right, sorry, you go.
No, good.
I was going to say, so the kids get up, they go fishing before they go to school.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. They'll be up
Wow.
before dawn, and they'll be out on the boat.
bring the cats back and go,
Yeah.
oh, is this
That's so cool.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Wow.
When you said that your work-life balance is better here,
Mhm.
what do you mean by that?
Oh, do you know, without going into all the detail of it, just the way that for me, the way that my day is structured, I just feel like I've got a better balance. So I get into school earlier. I was always somebody that got into school before the start of the day because I wanted to get myself set up and prepared. I now get in even earlier, but I feel like putting that little bit of time in at the start of the day really pays dividends. And when school finishes, I can go home and I've done my planning, I've done my marking, I'm ready for the next day.
Yeah.
And my evenings and my weekends are my own. Maybe it's just me managing my time better. Maybe it's just the Australian culture. I feel like there's a real culture here of you get up early, you make the most of the start of the day, and I just slotted into it, and I'm really loving it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was that original kind of spark? Like, what was the first thing that kind of drew you to come to Australia? Was there something that there was a moment or something that happened in your life or a point in time that kind of, was a spark for coming over?
I don't know. I think it sounds really sad, but I think just seeing Australia on the television and seeing the outdoor lifestyle and seriously watching things like Bondi Rescue, I just thought, I just want to go and see what that's like.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
So I did qualify as a lifeguard in the UK, so I have got a bit of vested interest in it.
way.
Yeah, and so I joined the Surf Lifesaving Club here, and
right.
as part of what I'm teaching at school, I've had to do a lifeguard qualification here as well, and I just wanted to see what that was like here, and so far I'm really loving it. Like, it's lived up to expectation.
Wow. I was going to say, like, as you were preparing to come to Geraldton, and I know that you did say that obviously that the government were trying to match you in terms of your hobbies, and
Yes,
stuff like
yeah.
that. Has it kind of matched up to what your expectations were? Like, what were your expectations of here?
Do you know, I think I kept my expectations fairly low because I just wanted to see what it was like when I got here and make the most of whatever there was. So I guess it's really exceeded my expectations, not because I had a really low opinion of it before I got here, just because I was managing my expectations a little bit. And I've been really pleasantly surprised. I've been pleasantly surprised by the town itself and what it offers, and by how friendly everybody is, by the amount of clubs and activities that there are, and everybody's really welcoming, like, just come and try it, get involved.
And what sort of clubs and activities? That's actually an interesting point. Like, what is there to do once you're here? Like, what sort of community things are happening?
Yeah, so it feels like a lot of it is quite sport-based. I don't know if that's just common to a lot of Australia, that everybody seems to be into at least a sport. So, for instance, like, Australian rules football season's just kicked off, and the netball season's just kicked off. I'm not directly involved in any of that, but a lot of my colleagues at work are. So there's that going on. Lots of different types of swim clubs. So open water, or there's a big aqua arena here that's got a big outdoor pool and an indoor pool. A lot of people seem to use that a lot. We've got, like, near where we live, there's a dance club, and I don't know, there's just, there seems to be something for everybody here,
Mm.
for sure.
And when you were organising to come over,
Yeah.
what things did you find really difficult to organise to come over? Is there anything that you found really stressful? Is there anything that you had no idea about that you had to organise?
So the WA government were really helpful in guiding me through it, because they obviously want to make it as easy as possible for you to go through the paperwork. But there were a lot of police checks. As a teacher, I had to go through a lot of separate police checks.
Really?
And then even when I arrived here, we all had to do it's called a working with children check. So we have something similar in the UK, but and maybe I just lost track, but it felt like there were some extra steps here.
Right.
So there was quite a lot of that. And each time you had to provide a lot of evidence for it. So that was not difficult, but quite time consuming. And actually proving equivalency of qualifications was quite time consuming, because I did my degree, over 20 years ago. I had to go back to my university and get them to look through the archives and get quite a lot of paperwork that I'd never been asked for in the UK. So I had to have things like transcripts of my degree.
Right.
I think until I started this process, I didn't even know what a transcript for a degree was. So yeah, a lot of paperwork chasing, I think probably just as a product of how long ago I did a lot of my qualifications. So, but apart from that, the actual moving and the logistics of it was pretty straightforward.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you use like a moving company and all that
Well, I
sort of
didn't
stuff?
really need to, because we were only bringing actual physical luggage with us. We didn't.
Oh, okay. There's no.
We didn't do a
right.
container. Some of my colleagues who moved over at the same time from the UK, who are here with the intention of staying forever, did do that, and they packed up the whole life into a container and it's been shipped over for them. But yeah, we didn't personally do that. We've left quite a lot in the UK because at the moment our intention is to go back.
Wow. And do you want to tell us a bit about, because just before we started recording, you were talking about how you had like a few months of travel around Australia, right? So do you want to talk us about that?
Yeah, so the UK school year ends in July, whereas the Australian school year ends in December. So there was a bit of a gap between when I finished my previous job and when I was starting my new job. So John and I decided to make the most of it and go travelling for 4 months. So we hopped on a plane to Bali and chilled out there for a week or so, and then island hopped. We went across, I don't know how well you know that area, but we went across to Nusa Lembongan and then to the Gili Islands, and we were diving and snorkeling. And then we flew up to North Sulawesi and did a couple of islands there, so Bangka Island and then Bunaken Island, and did some awesome diving there, lots of turtles and that kind of stuff. And then we flew to the other side of Indonesia and dived in North Sumatra on an island called Pulau Way.
Oh, okay.
And that's probably the best, I would say, for me, the best diving that we did in Indonesia. It was just amazing. So we spent 6 weeks in Indonesia.
Yeah.
No, actually, I think it was a little bit longer than 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks in Indonesia, just traveling around and scuba diving. So that was,
Nice.
I had never spent that long traveling previously. I think the longest I'd ever been away was about a month or 5 weeks. So
So that was a bit of
that was a big journey. And then from there we went to Malaysia for a bit, and then we ended up, like you say, in Australia on the East Coast and spent 2 months around Sydney. And then, a bit like yourselves, we hired a camper van and we drove from Adelaide all the way up the East Coast eventually to Cairns. Took about 5 weeks to do that.
Nice.
And then handed the keys back in Cairns, and then went on a dive boat on the Great Barrier Reef.
Dive.
Wow.
Dive. Yeah, it's all about the diving.
I'm trying to get my head around the fact that you did from Adelaide to Cairns in 5 weeks.
Pretty hectic.
Yeah.
That's full
Pretty
power.
hectic. I thought ours was a bit hectic, but that's pretty hectic. So do you want to talk us about that? Because when you finished that trip, so am I right in thinking that was in December? Then you went home and then you came back out in January?
Yeah, that process taught me a lot. Don't go back to the UK from Australia for 1 week only.
Oh, wow.
That's what you did for a week.
The jet lag was real. The jet lag was real.
That's full on.
Is there a reason why It's a reason why you decided to go back for a week though? Like,
it was. I didn't originally know when my job was going to start.
oh, okay.
And yeah, if I turn the clock back like a year, we thought we were probably going to be travelling till about Easter and I'd take a job then. So before I'd secured my job in Geraldton, we'd already booked and planned our travelling right the way up until the week before Christmas.
Oh, wow.
And then I secured my job and it was starting in January. And I was like, okay, well, then I'm definitely going home for Christmas. But I then need to be back in Western Australia for January. So yeah, we've got a week.
Wow.
So
My gosh.
we flew back and via Singapore, spent a week and then flew
The
back
jet
to
lag.
Perth again.
Jet lag. That's what I'm thinking about. Whoa.
It was, yeah.
How did that feel though? I'm just trying to get my head around that. Like, how did you feel knowing that your time was kind of up then in the UK? Were you kind of like,
I wish I'd stayed longer, and I'd like to have gone home earlier and had more of a build up for Christmas. So I'm going back at Christmas again this year, and I'm deliberately going back a couple of weeks before Christmas because I really missed the build up to Christmas this year.
Don't talk to me about that.
I'm sorry, Australia, but you just don't do it quite the
They
same.
don't.
I admit,
They don't.
Christmas in the UK is a very
I
different
told
prospect.
Steve it's happening this year. I've only done Christmas once in 13 years in England. That's it. And the rest of them have been here. Or I think most of them have been here. It's not my thing here at all.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point though. Thinking about Christmas, thinking about family, and coming over to Australia is a big move, and you're leaving your friends and family behind. And is that a big? I mean, that must be a pretty something that impacts you a lot. Like, how do you kind of?
Yeah, but I think
that?
and you'll appreciate that it's much easier to stay in touch with people now that we've got WhatsApp, we've got Instagram, we've got Facebook. If you want it, there's TikTok and Twitter. I don't personally use those, but FaceTime, so I can get onto FaceTime with my niece and nephew and have a bit of chat with them. And so it's not the same as being, there in person, but you can stay in touch quite easily. And I think just like planning ahead, I've already booked my flights home at Christmas. I've told people that I'm coming back so that there's an opportunity to meet up with people if they're around. But yeah, it's hard, but I guess we'd already made a move down to Devon a few years ago. So we'd already kind of moved a little bit further away from where family and friends were. So we were used to having a little bit of distance. Like, this is obviously completely extreme, other side of the world, but we're used to staying in touch with people, and it's down to making the effort, really, isn't it? It's down to planning and making the effort.
Yeah, totally.
And staying in touch. So yeah, and my dad's here at the moment. He's over here for 3 weeks.
So you're taking around, showing him the
Yeah,
sights.
show him around. We took him up to Horrocks Beach earlier today, and he had fish and chips on the beach up there. Yeah.
Got to have fish and chips on the beach.
Yeah.
I'll take the Brit away from England, can you?
What else would you do? Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But is there anything that you would have done maybe a little differently, like reflecting upon how things have travelled for you now? Like what maybe would you have done a little bit differently?
I think I would have liked to have been travelling for a little bit longer. I felt like John certainly would have liked to have done a little bit more of Southeast Asia, because I've travelled a bit more than he has in that kind of area of the world. He was really looking forward to getting to places like Vietnam and Laos and Thailand, and although we have been to Thailand together before, and we didn't have time to get that far. We didn't want to whiz through countries and just be somewhere for a week or two. We wanted to spend time, hence spending a couple of months going through Indonesia and then a couple of months going up the east coast of Australia. So now we're just going to have to plan those things into school holidays while we're here.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, is that it's not too far away. Like, it's still manageable.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm interested to hear a bit more about your East Coast trip, because have you been to Australia before? Because you haven't. So,
No.
because for us, we're always like, we always feel like we need to see everything before we can like make decisions in a way. Because we're like, Steve and I are constantly trying to find the best spot, aren't we? We're always like, where's the next best place?
Best
Well,
bit
The
Yeah.
grass is always greener somewhere else.
always greener with us. Did you find did the East Coast help you feel, has it helped you feel a bit more settled? Or did you spend some of that thinking, I wish I was like moving here instead? Like, how did it make you feel?
Do you know, I thought I might feel like that. And I really enjoyed the East Coast. Some bits of it more than I thought I would, some bits a bit less. So I really enjoyed, we were in Bondi for a week and I really loved it there, but I thought, this is too hectic. Like, I couldn't have lived here,
Right.
but really enjoyed it and would love to go back for another holiday. But yeah, like around that area, the kind of greater Sydney area, really, really loved it. But as we went further north, for me, it was just a little bit too hot and humid for the kinds of stuff that I want to do. So we really enjoyed trekking, and I enjoyed trail running, and outdoor swimming's really tricky as well because of the stingers in the sea.
Yeah.
So So actually, we loved it and we'll go back. But in terms of living day to day, here suits us a bit. It turns out that here suits us a bit better. It might not have worked out like that.
I think especially with the time of the year you went, because you must have been there around Christmas time.
Yeah, we were there in November. We landed in Sydney very end of October, and we were there right the way through till about 4 or 5 days before Christmas. So,
right. Yeah. And did you say, were you there during the big floods and
yeah, we were
in Port Douglas and that?
Yeah, so we were in Cairns as Cyclone Jasper came in December. So
wow.
We actually got stuck in Townsville, which is obviously just south of Cairns. We were in a camper van similar to you guys, and we were waiting it out on a holiday park until there was kind of a weather window to drive up to Cairns, because we had accommodation booked we needed to get to, and we needed to hand the van back as well. So we were a bit like, we really need to get there.
Yeah.
And the day after we got through, the road behind us flooded and washed away.
Oh, really?
So yeah,
Wow.
but I mean, Australians are so adept at dealing with it. Like I think they got that road reopened within about 48 hours. But for us, that would have caused us a lot of issues because we needed to get the van back. We'd booked a liveaboard boat to go out and scuba on the Great Barrier Reef, and we would have missed that. So
you were able to get out.
we were able to do it. All the rain while we
I was
were
gonna
in Cairns
say.
was unreal.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I hope you're on the outer reef so you can get all the wash off into the.
We were on the outer reef. That's why we chose to do a boat that went out for 3 days so that we could go a bit further out.
Yeah. I think that's one thing we've definitely learned with Australia is like, you have to really consider like where to live in terms of the climate, because like you could find like the most beautiful green area, but then you've got to consider like bushfires. And you got to think like,
Flooding,
okay, what's that going to be like?
in the
You've got to
northern
think about the
rivers,
flooding rivers, because we actually considered up near Cairns, didn't we, Steve? Like Atherton Tablelands.
Atherton Tablelands is
so pretty.
Have you been up there?
No, but, we only got as far as Cairns because, was it Port Douglas, just north of there? We had quite a bit of stuff booked there, and it just was completely devastated. We couldn't do any of it.
Yeah, they were out for, I think they said like they weren't going to have any supplies coming to the town for like a couple of weeks or something, which is crazy.
Cut off. You just get cut off.
But it's something we've definitely had to consider. And now we live in Sunshine Coast, and it just gets so hot in summer, doesn't it, Steve? Like with Australian housing, what we've got is it's a very typical Australian housing.
It's hot in summer and cold in winter.
Super hot in summer, too cold in winter.
Yeah.
But summer's just unbearable, isn't it? And we've been there for 3 years, and every year we're like,
No. Well, actually,
we've got to reconsider this.
No, it was we used to live in Agnes Water. I was like way up north near like.
We stopped there.
Oh, did you?
We stayed in a little motorhome park that was right on the beach there.
Oh, which one did you stay in? Was it in Agnes or in 1770?
No, it was in Agnes Water.
And Holidays. Was that Holidays? You stayed in?
It could have been. I can't remember the name of the site.
Yeah.
It was right on the beach. It was really lovely.
Oh,
yeah.
There's only one. I think there's only a handful of them.
It's only Holidays, Holidays Cafe. There's a little cafe there?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's hardly any places to eat like this. So when you said there was one.
But I'm guessing you didn't go in the heat of summer, because as soon as the sun rises and you hit 7 a.m.
Agnes, crazy hot. Crazy hot.
It was hot, and we were there, and we didn't actually get up to, is it 1770?
Yeah.
We didn't get up because it was too hot to walk up there during the day, so we just kind of hung around the site and went on the beach.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the problem with when you're living in really hot temperatures, is that you have to really consider your day. When we lived there, and even in Sunny Coast as well, like in the mornings, you have to become a morning person, because you've got to really like race up and get up before the sun rises. Because as soon as the sun rises, you're like, whoa, it's too hot now.
It is the same in Geraldton. So we had a bit of a baptism of fire the February. We were the hottest place on earth one day. Yeah,
No way.
it got to 46 degrees.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's exactly the same here. That's why everybody's early risers, because the best temperature of the day is sunrise. First hour or two.
So that adjustment, and I'm assuming that's in the height of summer.
Yeah.
That it's that. So how did you find the temperature adjustment? I mean, obviously, in being
Especially coming out in January.
in Devon,
it would have
like
been
that's a
freezing
pretty
cold in
like
England,
it's a
and then
huge difference. So how did you?
I think having been on the road through Indonesia and Australia for the 4 months leading up to it helped.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a shock to the system. Actually going the other way. So going back to the UK for Christmas, I spent the whole week feeling cold.
Oh, really?
So coming back to warmer weather was nice. But yeah, 46 degrees, I don't think you can ever get used to that.
Yeah,
It just
it's
is
crazy.
stay
We've
indoors
had
during the
that, haven't
day.
Yeah.
We had that in Sydney, didn't we, once? 46.
Yeah.
When we lived there.
There was.
It was crazy.
Crazy
Wild.
hot.
Crazy hot. But in terms of being a teacher, so you've been out here for 4 months now.
Yes.
Still very new. But if anybody else is listening and they're thinking about moving over and, you know, transferring their teaching skills to teach over here, what sort of advice would you give them?
Do it. Give it a go. Yeah, I think it will be easier than you think,
Really?
actually. Yeah, especially if you choose a state where there's a lot of government assistance. I mean, I haven't spoken about it yet, but there are lots of financial incentives as well to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we're much better off with me working here in a state school here than in the UK.
Oh, wow.
really?
That's
Yeah.
great. So that frees up a bit more time for you to then to do all your travels and...
Yeah, and just you also get help with housing. So teachers in Western Australia anyway are entitled to government housing, and it's at a very reduced rate of rent.
wow.
I believe
That's
in
pretty
some
good.
places, if you're in a very remote area, so Geraldton counts as regional, but if you're in the northern part of WA and you're in a remote area, I think some people actually get free accommodation, I believe.
Wow.
And there's lots of other kind of subsidies and grants that you can get. So again, if you're in a really remote area, they'll do things like give you an air conditioning allowance. They give you bonus on top of your salary for working in a regional remote area. I mean, it does come with additional costs. So some of that is to cover the additional costs because you're having to do a lot more travel to do things like your grocery shop or to get back to friends and family. So some of it is to compensate you for things you're having to spend on. But definitely I've found being here that overall the package is a lot more financially beneficial than working as a teacher in the UK.
And whereabouts would people look for those sort of opportunities? Where would you find them?
You would go onto the Western Australian education, like government education website, and it's
Right.
all on there. All of the information's on there about how to apply for it, what you would need to apply. It talks you through the different areas, the different regions within WA, because WA is such a huge state, and the different areas are so vastly different to one another. So if you're right up in the Kimberley, you're in tropical heat all of the time. But as you guys have just experienced down in the southwest of WA, the climate is totally different. It's more akin to what we're used to in the UK. And then everything in between is everything in between.
Yeah.
So it really I felt a pretty good job of talking you through what those different regions are like. They then got little videos on there, profiling teachers that work in some of those local public schools. So you can find out a little bit more about it
Oh, brilliant.
before you decide where you might be interested in. And then the next kind of step in the process is once you've been approved, once your qualifications and experience have been approved, and you have to get statements from the schools you've worked in and you have to demonstrate all of your qualifications. Once you've passed that and you're in the approved pool of teachers, then you start to say, well, these are the areas that I'm interested in working in, and they match you. It's a bit like like a dating matching site. They'll try and match you to not just the area, but a school and a location that they think would suit you and your family, because they want it to work for you for obvious reasons. They want you to come, have a great experience, and want to stay.
And have you kept, like you mentioned, you sort of came as a group and you did your group training. Have you kept in touch with some of the other teachers? How were their experiences? Do you have any like stories that you can kind of share about their experiences?
Do you know, everybody... So I'm in touch with the teachers that came at the same time from the UK that are at my school. We've all got slightly different experiences because some of us came just with a partner, some came with a whole family. I know that at least a couple of those teachers who packed up their whole life have just had their shipping container. So up until now, they've been sitting on bean bags and, and camping chairs in their living rooms waiting. And this week was container week. So yeah, everybody, whereas for us, we came with the suitcases on the aeroplane and just set ourselves up when we got here. So in some ways we sort of had the advantage that we moved straight into our government housing and set ourselves straight up. And yeah, so everybody's in a slightly different situation.
That's a really interesting point though, isn't it? Like how potentially, whereas people might feel like they can settle more if they've got all their stuff around them, but actually you could be better off being able to settle much quicker if you're not waiting for all those sort of things.
Yeah. But then we've got the advantage that our plan is to go back, and so sentimental items, things like that, we've just stored at my dad's house, and it'll be there for us when we get back. Whereas for those families that are making this a definite permanent move, they want all of that stuff with them. So yeah, they've just had to wait for it. But it's nice now it's here.
I find sometimes in thinking like that you seem so adamant that you're like, I'm definitely going back. Whereas in some ways that would help me think that actually you can really enjoy your time much more than rather than thinking, this is permanent. I've moved absolutely everything over here. We have to make this work. Like Steve and I were talking about this before we started filming, like how there's this real sense of when you move over that you have to sort of show that face that you're like, I'm determined, it's working, and I'm not going to say otherwise. Like, it absolutely has to work. Because people don't want to feel like almost like a failure, like I've made this huge move and then it's not working out, and then they have to go back and feel like everyone's going to go, oh my God, what's wrong with you? You couldn't make it work in paradise. Because I feel like most people think that Australia is like paradise, isn't it? It's like being on holiday. But I think with that, maybe with that idealization, that you can just feel like I'm just here on a temporary basis, and so I want to enjoy every single minute I have, and then spend all those sort of school holidays really getting to explore all those certain areas that you're really interested in seeing, rather than when you're somewhere permanent. It's so easy to be like, I have loads of time, I'll do that another time, I'll put that off. There's so many things, even Sunshine Coast, we haven't done, like major things that we should have done by now.
You seem like you do loads.
What was that? We have long lists,
long list.
Have notes on like iPhone. I literally I have like a Sunshine Coast bucket list, and then we have to like tick them all off. But yeah, it's just it's such an interesting concept how your mindset can really help you settle much quicker, in a sense.
And I definitely agree with what you just said. John and I were talking this morning about there's a school summer holiday no, it's not summer, is it? Winter holiday, sorry. Coming up end of June, beginning of July, and we had nothing booked or planned. And we've got stuff planned for the September holiday, and I was like, maybe we'll just use this one to chill out. And then I started thinking, actually, it is the ideal time to go up to the northern part of Western Australia, because the temperature will be at the lowest. Hopefully the flies will be at their lowest. So
we do hear there a problem up there. It's like,
I think at the minute.
And he was talking about the fly net situation there.
You're going to need them.
Yeah.
And I was like, why haven't we booked it? Like, let's just do it. Like, we should just, make the most of it. And John's very much behind that. He said, let's just, because we don't know how long we're going to be here for. Like, it's maximum 4 years at the moment.
Yeah.
We need to grab all the opportunities.
And that's the thing. Nothing is really forever, is it? Circumstances change all the time for people.
Yeah.
So...
And like, what would be your top tips if someone's thinking of moving over? Like, what would you say would be your top tips to someone who's thinking about it? Like, what would you say to them in that sense?
Keep an open mind, definitely. I suppose it would depend on the circumstances under which they were moving over. If they had a choice of where to live, so if their circumstances were similar to mine, where I could consider lots of different locations and be a bit selective about it, definitely do a lot of research. Think about what you really enjoy already, because you're not going to become a completely different person just because you live the other side of the world. You're not suddenly going to, go from, I don't know, sitting around not doing too much to running ultra marathons. Like, you might, but the chances are that if you're already an ultra marathon runner, you're going to carry on doing that. You're probably not. So be a bit realistic about what you enjoy doing already, because actually, I think everything is. Well, some things are a bit easier, but some things are a bit more difficult in Australia because of the heat. So you're going to have to be pretty motivated to do some things here, like we've talked about, getting up really early in the morning to make the most of that window of cooler weather. So you've got to be a bit organised. So if you've got a choice about where you can live and you're not moving for a particular job in a particular city and you can be choosy, then be realistic about what you think you're going to enjoy and what's going to allow you to do the things that you like doing. Because as we found on our fan tour up the East Coast, for me, Queensland's just a bit too hot and humid. And I didn't know that until I got there. So yeah, definitely do the research and work out what's going to suit you and your family or your partner before you commit to something, because I think that then gives you the best chance. Just a kind of little side story, when we went away at Easter and we went up to Exmouth, there were a lot of flies around. Not as much in Exmouth, but a lot in Shark Bay.
Really?
And loads in Cowbarry, which is on the way up there. And I did say to John, if we had been placed in a town that was like this for several months of the year, I don't think I could have hacked it.
Turn up the
Oh my
like school of
God.
fly net.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just would have.
Pathetic, isn't it?
Yeah, I just don't think I would have been able to live with that like
Yeah.
for several months of the year.
Wow.
So we were really lucky that Geraldton's not.
Yeah,
Not
not,
like
too
that.
bad. Have you found any culture shocks at all, like from coming over for the first time? Is there anything that you're talking about, like Bondi, like you used to watch Bondi Rescue, and then suddenly you're going there and it's packed and it's all full of like, you've either got tourists and backpackers or people in the active wear with their full face of makeup on and like looking like they're from like maths or something.
I have
like.
never seen gyms so busy. So 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, people spilling out onto the street. But from the most popular gyms in Bondi, just
Wow.
unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sunday. Gosh.
Just that health and fitness culture. Like, great, what a nice culture to
Yeah.
have, but that was a bit of a culture shock. I thought I'd be the only person out jogging at that time.
I do find with that there is a bit of a line in terms of I'm absolutely all for people wanting to be fit and healthy. I think it's fantastic, and I do too. But like sometimes there's a bit of a line with it where it can just be like, are people doing it for that purpose, or like
Is
what are they
this for
doing
your
for?
health? Is it for your vanity? And I think
Yeah.
that's the.
There was definitely a bit of a lifestyle
Yeah.
thing going on, like in parallel to
Yeah.
the actual keeping fit, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I actually missed a lot about England, is not having to feel like that. Like when we lived in Sydney, I was like doing a lot of exercise all day. It was nice to see like every day. I was probably working out about 3 or 4 hours a day.
Wow.
And like, no, I don't. Like, that's because I'm not in Bondi. Thinking that, like, comparing myself, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to be as like skinny as these people. But like, when we did move back to England, because obviously there's a big pub culture in England, and it was just so nice just to be like, oh, I don't have to worry. Like, I don't have to feel like I have to do that. Like, it was quite nice actually, not having to.
I mean, being from Devon, you must miss the pubs, right? I mean,
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to miss about Devon. So my kind of
so beautiful there.
yeah, and my routine was I was either sea swimming or I was up on Dartmoor running,
Oh,
and I do
that's
miss that. I do miss
wow.
trail running here. It's just been too hot to run outdoors.
Do you miss like the green? Because it's quite
yeah,
dry here.
Yeah, and I've noticed we're just going through a change of season at the moment, and as we were driving up north today, we just went an hour north of here to Horrocks, and there's a lot more greenery in the last month actually, and I noticed it and just thought, oh right, okay, yeah, so we are going to get a little bit greener. That'll be nice.
That's something that I really missed actually when we lived in Agnes Water, because it's one little pocket of Queensland that's super dry there. I mean, I don't think I even realised how dry it was until we moved down to Sunny Coast, but it's very, very like dry heat, but also very dry in the landscape as well. And so whenever we'd come down Sunshine Coast and we'd see all the like the mountains and stuff, I'd be like, oh Steve, this is the last time we're going to see green for ages. And so I really, really missed that. And it's just something I hadn't even really considered ever before until we went and lived in that sort of area,
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely very arid around here. You're going to see it more as you drive north. It's pretty red,
Yeah.
pretty barren.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Interesting though. But I have found with WA in general, like down on the southwest, the landscape changed so much, didn't it, Steve? From like we were in like forest to rolling hills.
Did you go into the giant trees?
Yes, we did. Yeah,
Yeah, they're amazing.
cool. Yeah,
I can't remember what that place is called.
Valley of the Giants.
Oh yeah, Valley of the Giants.
Yeah, that was really cool. Beautiful.
But that
down
whole area in southern Perth is just absolutely
southwest,
stunning.
yeah,
Southwest,
beautiful, absolutely stunning. Highly
Yeah.
recommend going there
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah.
Have you done that or that area?
Yeah, but we only spent about 10 days, so we definitely need to go back and do it in a bit more detail.
Yeah, we did it in about 10 days.
And
and,
we flew through Bustleton in a morning.
yeah.
Oh, I need to go down there for a week.
Yeah, especially like Denmark and Albany. Oh,
Yeah, we didn't go to Denmark.
oh, it's so beautiful.
And we haven't been to Esperance either yet. It was just a little bit too far, so we'd need to still do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we've just been to Lucky Bay, which was voted the world's best beach of last year, and It's something else, isn't it, Steve?
Oh, yeah.
But it's not just that beach, though. All the beaches around it are
Yeah.
just unbelievable.
Well, then if you say that, all the beaches up and down the coast of WA, there's just like so much beautiful, crystal clear water and beautiful sand. It is really.
And you were saying it's just so
lovely, yeah.
flat, weren't you?
Yeah,
'Cause you were going,
crazy
it's just so flat.
It is
There's, like,
crazy
no
flat.
waves.
Like this whole, once you sort of reach Perth and go up, it's just, it's pretty flat.
Yeah.
It's like no waves. Anyways, well, thank you so much for coming
You're
on
welcome.
the podcast today. It's so interesting to meet you.
Thanks for having
thank
me.
you.
Where can everybody find you if they want to start following your adventures?
I think my handle is Nina Loves the Water on Instagram. Yeah.
Cool.
There you
Follow
go,
me on
guys.
Definitely got to be
Nina loves the water. So make sure you follow Nina and her adventures as she settles in Geraldton. We are currently travelling around WA, Northern Territory and also South Australia over the next couple of months. So we will be interviewing people along the way, won't we, Steve?
That's right. And make sure you like and subscribe if you're watching on our YouTube channel, or just give us a review if you're watching on Apple Podcasts, or if you're on Spotify.
Or anywhere else.
Or anywhere else. Tell your friends, tell your neighbours, just tell everybody, come and listen. And we hope we can help you, have a fantastic time living life in Australia.
There you go. All right, guys, we'll be back next week for more from the Expat Reality Podcast. See you soon.
Take care. Bye.